What up? What's going on, guys? What's happening? What is happening? Man, I would say that the biggest news in the past 48 to 24 hours has been tampered evidence. Now, we have been suspicious of evidence being tampered with. That's for sure, right? Like when you take a look at the GPS of Bart's boat and how they don't have a record to say or show where that boat was, where it went. Look like that was tampered with. When it comes down to Nolan Wells and his phone, may he rest in peace. Condolences to the family, first and foremost. Condolences to Christine and the Wells family. Yeah. Um, Nolan Wells' phone very well could have been also tampered with. Okay, I want you guys to understand that. Um, when it comes down to all these different things, it just shows that they're trying to get away with murder. Because if you wasn't trying to get away with murder, then let's say if you wasn't trying to get away with murder, you wouldn't be tampering with evidence. You would have nothing to hide. If you was innocent, you would have nothing to hide at all whatsoever, right? We're clear on that. Everybody should be on the same page when it comes down to that, right? If you have nothing to hide, right? If you have nothing to hide, then you should have nothing to worry about. Like you shouldn't be tampering with evidence. If you have nothing to hide, that means that you don't have to lie. If you don't have nothing to hide and you're innocent, that means you can cooperate with the law if there's a criminal investigation going on. Specifically, if it's a place or location that you've been on that day of the specific crime, like July 4th. So they're tampering with so much evidence, right? They're tampering with so much evidence with Photoshop, pictures, everything else, all of the above. Oh, I'm not showing this video that you see here. This is just to show you guys that regardless of white or black, because I don't know who runs these two channels, but please be aware, guys. White people do like to take content, put it together, and just have AI do everything so they can make money off of it. So be aware of that, guys. Like, you have to understand those culture vultures and all that stuff. All of that is real. All right. So support your content creators, the content creators that get in front of a camera, like Lisa tells, even though, we might not always agree with something a content creator does, says, or do, whatever, like anything, any of that stuff, like their opinion, their idea, whatever the case may be. But at least they're being creative in their own way. All right. So definitely check out all the different content creators that are covering the Nolan Wells case. Y'all go ahead and go over to Lisa Tells, Elliot Connie, Willie D Live. Those are some of the names that are definitely known. Trent Out Loud, like um, definitely go out there and show your support. Um, you definitely want to make sure you stay away from these, like the
he said, plainly, correcting weak.
those voices, those computer robotic voices, all the AI videos with narrators. Yo, like get that shit out of there. Yeah, I'm saying. Um, yeah, man, definitely be aware of that, y'all. Let me see. I gotta take a look real quick at what Willie D probably said about the sheriff. Willie D does a really good job um, doing his content his way. He pretty much, you know gets his point across, and is a content creator who doesn't use other people's content a whole lot, like videos and things like that. He will post like a screenshot, which is perfect. You know what I mean? Um, Journalism 101. Covering your assets and making sure you don't get a copyright strike, all of the above. So he does a great job. Elliot Connie had an interview, which I don't understand why, with Officer Tatum today. That was bogus. At this point, it's like, even after the first interview, because I didn't bother watching the second interview. Even after seeing the first interview with Officer Tatum, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like, they're lying. You got this guy who constantly talks bad about black people because that's what he gets paid for, and it's just like irrelevant. Brandon Tatum is irrelevant, not just for the Nolan Wells case, but overall he's no good. Like, he doesn't do anything. Um, all he tries to do is bash people of the same color of his skin. He has, I don't know, PTSD or self hate. I we don't. It would be nice for him to sit down with a psychiatrist so they can figure out what's wrong with him and why he talks so bad about his own people. Like, it makes no sense. I don't get it. I don't know. Um, because particularly, it doesn't matter what race you are or what ethnicity. And what I mean by this is every neighborhood out there, every community, for the most part, has a criminal. Someone is suffering somewhere with mental health. All right, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, Tatum is brainwashed. Tatum is done. I wouldn't listen to another interview. I wouldn't want to listen to him talk. Period. Unless there's like a whole bunch of other people in the conversation, in that group conversation, I wouldn't bother talking or I mean listening to that guy. So I didn't watch the interview with Elliot Connie and Brandon Tatum. They even started debating about racist cops. Come on, guys! Like we know that there's racist cops out there. Let's not even play this game. Like LAPD has one of the biggest mafias. In fact, how is it that a governor, right, violates constitutional rights pretty much, I would say, and passes a bill in 2023 for LAPD to be able to hire an illegal alien to become a law enforcement? How does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? So LAPD is probably ran by the cartel. It's probably a mafia. And regardless, there's evidence out there that shows that they're racist too. There's evidence out there that shows that NYPD is racist. Okay? There's so much evidence out there of police brutality, period. You know what I mean? Um so I would, they started going into this debate. I thought it was just a waste of time. I really, if anybody sits down with Brandon Tatum, I want them to ask the tough questions and I want them to pretty much focus on the Nolan Wells case. We need to shut down Brandon Tatum's uh, credibility, which he has none. Like, we need to show the world that this guy creates content, has a YouTube channel, but in reality, he's no good. There's no good quality in what he does. You was on point talking about the what the boys did. When I heard you, I was looking. This dude is on point. Yeah. Well, there. I'm just putting things together. Like when I look at this or I look at a mystery, I think of equations and math and how they have variables and how you got to do the formula in order to get your answer. So it kind of helps, being analytic and things like that. Um, it's just like I wouldn't dump a body where there's over 100 people around, right? You said the West dropped them off. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff, man, and the more evidence that we get, the more information that we get, the net for me, from my point of view, my perspective, the nastier thoughts come to my head. Like I feel like it was planned. It was like, how do these teenagers not have emotions, don't have or feel remorse, no empathy, all of the above? Yeah, he looks, yeah, for sure. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Warren is a sicko. He looks like he's not happy, not even with the money that his parents have. I don't know, man. It's kind of weird how these people live. Um, and so his story isn't straight, and that's another thing for content creators out there. They can't file a defamation lawsuit against you if these teenagers don't have their story straight. In the second interview that I didn't watch, and I'm pretty much catching the content from other content creators, which is great because they deserve the views, the likes, the exposure. On the second interview of Brandon Tatum with the three kids and the lawyer, which I've seen through other content creators, they talk about the body language. They talk about how Warren, if you look at Warren, Warren is very uncomfortable up there. He doesn't want to be talking about the situation with those two other people. He wants to pretty much have the entire story to himself. He doesn't want anybody to ruin it for him. And he looks very, very uncomfortable. You know? Like his stories don't make sense. They're not adding up. Um, I know for a fact that there had to been more than 10 people involved simply because of what he said earlier that day. He said in the first interview, there were roughly about 30 people between three boats. Okay, so basically, what you're telling me is during the CETO call, you guys brag about the video and the picture that's shown of the Triton itself and Wyatt on the phone, stating that that's Wyatt on the phone, and that's during the CETO call. Okay, well, if you look at that picture and you look at that video, besides the suspicious part, there's about seven people, two females, five males. Just about, right? We don't get to see the boat that's recording. We don't know who's recording. We don't know who's driving the boat from where that other camera is, showing you the evidence or the picture, the video. And we don't know how many people are on there. We don't know if Nolan Wells is on Bart's boat. Which, by the way, that is Bart's boat. That other boat that's trying to tow, or they say that that boat towed the Triton, that was Bart's boat. They mentioned that. They talk about all of that, right? I think I honestly, man, that's the hard part that I'm trying to that we're all gonna try to have to figure out, right? Um, I honestly do think that he was probably unalived, away from the island, away from a lot of people, and most likely, yes, I think that he was probably unalived on a boat, and not the way I visualize it is at least the people that were on the Triton, if that sea tow call is so real, 100%, right? And they act surprised or whatever the case may be, they're like, oh my God, is he dead? And then they start mentioning his name and they start saying all these, things. To me, visually, it almost feels like bars pulling up. Like think of a car pulling up or a boat pulling up, and they finally see Nolan in those conditions, and they just start panicking. I honestly think that he was unalived, and when that boat pulled up, some people was probably surprised and they didn't know. Like I think right away, I think is a female voice that says, "Oh my God," or whatever the case may be, and all of that, right? Now, that's the way I visualize it, right? Oh, there's more than two witnesses. The problem is, I'm gonna get to that point in a minute, right? Because I was just talking about visually with the audio. How do I picture it? Okay. Um, and then after that, they try to figure out what to do with the body. All right. Now, the two witnesses are fake. I think this is the craziest shit ever. This is why I want this case to be solved, and we need justice for Nolan Wells. It's because a lot of people was involved. I do think a lot of people got involved. A lot of people was involved. There are more than 10 witnesses. So between both boats, you seen Nolan Wells. I don't care what those passengers want to lie about, but you guys had to see Nolan Wells, because saying his name more than once on a CETO call and it being recorded is not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence, right? Now, the two, I say, fake or fraudulent witnesses that they're talking about, they could be paid people. Why didn't they come forward before? You understand? You see what I'm saying? Why isn't there a police report before that? You understand what I'm saying? You see? Um, we're waiting 30 days after to say that there's two witnesses. They're going to try to find as many witnesses as they can. And what they're going to do is, and what I mean by that is, they're going to try to pay and bribe as many people as they can. They're gonna try to get away with this, guys. They're gonna try to get away with murder, and the more time that passes, I say, unless we get really good evidence other than the audio call, and I think the audio call is what it speaks for itself. And I think that those two boats, between those two boats, all of them people should be locked up for conspiracy of a murder. However, anybody who has lied up to this point should be locked up for conspiracy of a murder, because I do believe that there's some teenagers that witnessed what happened or were there, saw Nolan, and still haven't spoken up. And those are not the witnesses, obviously, um, unless they're gonna lie and they're gonna get paid for that. But I honestly do. Between two boats, if you're telling me you took over like around roughly 30 people, maybe 20 something, 27, whatever, if you're telling me that, then obviously there's people out there that are not doing interviews, that know exactly what happened, and they're simply not speaking up right now, which they're covering their ass. That's okay. Because if they were to lie, they come out in the public and lie, they can probably try to get them too, you know, with conspiracy of a murder. I don't like the fact that Warren and all these people are lying in front of cameras and doing all these crazy interviews, because in reality it just shows us how inconsistent you are. And it also shows us that they have some kind of guilt, right? There's one answer that he gave, and I don't know for what question, but Warren clearly said, I wish we never went to Horn Island that day. I don't know if y'all saw that on the interview. That's hey, that's suspect. He ended up saying, I wish we never went to Horn Island. Why would Warren say, I wish we never went to Horn Island that day. That was weird. During that second interview that I didn't watch, and I'm just seeing different content creators. That's a great point. Why would Warren say that? That's kind of weird, right? So that's another clue of Warren knowing exactly what happened to Nolan. Because he said, I wish we never went to Horn Island. It's almost like damn, I knew this was gonna happen, or I knew we were gonna do this, and maybe we shouldn't have done this. Or we didn't think we were gonna get caught, or that people would question or make this a huge national news, make it nationwide, a federal case. Because for all we know, this could be a hate crime. This could be a hate crime, federal. So the other part that sticks out to me is I was telling my girlfriend this. I was like, if me and my buddies were all together at an event at a community somewhere, why would we, if we're defending ourselves, why would we want different lawyers? Why wouldn't we all just get the same law firm? It's gonna get messy. This is gonna get messy. Very, very messy. Okay. Because if I'm not suing somebody for my benefit, right? If you ever sue the police, if you ever sue anyone for your benefit, if you're gonna get paid out of it, if there's gonna be a settlement, all of that stuff, right? You typically you wanna go by yourself. It doesn't matter if your family member was involved. You get your own lawyer, so the benefit for the settlement or whatever the result of the case is 100% profit to your pocket. Okay, and then you got to pay whatever the lawyer charges you, whatever, right? But when you're defending yourself, not only is it cheaper, or it should be cheaper, for you and a group of people to get a lawyer to defend you for an event that happened one day. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it would benefit to just go with one law firm. It could be different lawyers, but at the very least, one law firm to represent everybody. So that's another clue. The fact that Bart has his own lawyer, Warren and these other two apparently are going to be represented by Tyler Cox and whoever else, Edward, I guess, works with Tyler Cox and whatever. Um, I find that strange. I find that strange. So why get three different lawyers, or everybody, or people not have the same law firm? It's almost like, so is there gonna be an outcome to three different cases? Are we gonna file three different criminal reports from the beginning? From from the moment I learned about this case, I didn't understand why whoever was driving the boat and was responsible for that person wasn't arrested. It's that simple. That's the law. At the very least, you're supposed to question. You don't have to arrest them right away, but you have to question and you have to investigate. And then, still after that, after you find out what happened, if he gives you the story and he says, we left them, the word left, meaning they leaving someone behind, abandoning. All right. Someone on an island is a criminal. charge, whether it was a joke or not. You cannot do that as a joke. This is a warning for everybody. You cannot leave somebody stranded on an island. You can leave somebody stranded on the road because they can get a taxi, they can call 911. If they have their phone, they can get an Uber, they can call a family member, they can get a friend, they can get out of that situation. But to take somebody to an island and say he stayed there regardless, you guys left. If you're basically telling me you took him there, you left him there, and I'm looking at the report, somebody's getting charged. Whoever's driving that boat is getting charged. You can't do that. That's false imprisonment. That's kidnapping. If he ends up being dead, that can even be homicide. There's a there's so many charges that you can end up with. Okay, there's so many charges that the certified boat controller, whatever, pilot, captain, because it's not everybody gets a captain license. People get certified to drive a boat, and so the boat certification, you get it by passing a test where you show knowledge of knowing the laws and understanding that you are responsible for everyone's behavior. Pay attention to that word, because now, if say for instance somebody decided to do that to Nolan, I don't think it was probably just one person. This is why the more I think about it, the more evidence comes out. It just, to me, it looks like it was planned. Because who in their right mind would allow this to happen on their boat and then be held accountable later down the road if you didn't even touch them, if you didn't have nothing to do with it? Because the behavior of that person, you're not even coming forward and talking about it, being a witness, letting everybody know exactly what happened. Now the behavior of the other person falls into your hands. You see how that works? So, regardless, I would have charged whoever took Nolan to Horns Island with a criminal charge, and then I would have got the snitch out of him. Because he's probably like, oh, I'm not the only one who committed this crime. Or he would say, I know exactly what happened. And I simply didn't say anything because I was intimidated. You see, now he's working with the law. And then he would be able to probably get a reduced sentence or probably be under protective custody and not serve at all. And continue working with the feds in the future as an informant or whatever the case may be. Now, the fact that nobody decided to do that is kind of weird. That's weird because we have an audio, again, we have evidence, we have an audio of a CTO call where Nolan's name is mentioned more than once. So more than 10 people and whoever were driving those boats know exactly what happened. They know exactly what happened. They can't lie. They cannot lie to me, man. You know, whether it was horseplay, whether it was alcohol poisoning, a prank, incident, or accident, they did not get them medical attention. They did not take them to a medical treatment center, anything at all whatsoever. All right. The boat to me doesn't look like it's sinking at all whatsoever. It does not for me. So that video and picture that's been circulating, that has been talked about, it doesn't look like it's sinking. Tampered evidence that we can think of or that we're aware of. Security cameras at the grandparents' home, etc., and the GPS tracking feature of Garmin, yeah, that could have been deleted. If Bart's GPS has no info, what does that tell me? What, a factory reset? What did we do? It, that's tampered evidence. Um, the phone, if they did keep the body, or even on the boat itself, right? They used a fingerprint, a face recognition. They can unlock an iPhone, right? So that is one opinion or an idea, a theory that anybody can have and think of. That's an opinion. That is something that could be done easy. Okay. Tampered evidence, pictures and photos. Go ahead and go to TikTok if you haven't already. If I'm pretty sure a lot of you that are definitely interested in this topic and this crime, you guys know about Nerdy Pink Panda 1. And now she's breaking down pictures and how they've been photoshopped, how they've probably even used AI to change the pictures themselves. That's another piece of tampered evidence. What other evidence can you mess with? Witnesses. You can just say, hey, we would like to pay you 20,000, 50,000. I don't know. The reward right now to give up facts and real information is 125,000. So they can offer people probably whatever they make in a year down there in Mississippi, some quick cash. All right. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it's Bart, but somebody's grandfather owns a boat dealership. They can pretty much offer a boat and not even take a loss. Most, you know what I mean? Um, so they're gonna find two fake people, pay them, and that's why I don't want that. This, they're gonna try to get away with murder. They're trying to stretch this as long as they can. That's why we know that law enforcement is probably also involved. They waited for a specific time to speak to a specific person so then they could file the report. You know, the lawyer that's so jolly and talking so much shit, he's he's a family friend. He's definitely a family friend of Warren. He's very well known. In fact, let's show you real quick the party that apparently has been shown. Let me show you something real quick. Ready? Guess who this is? Dun 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 dun! Without a hat, without hair, shaved. Next to whom? The mayor, Cox. At whose home? Whose home is that? So the information is already out there. That's a pinky. That's a nerdy Pinky Panda TikTok. But when I re-saw the video last night, I took a screenshot. I took a screenshot. I was like, "Oh, there's the lawyer. There he is. It sure looks like him without being on alcohol or pills. Without this being all red, I don't know. Do you think that's him? It looks to me. It looks very similar to that guy. Very similar. Uh, I could be wrong, right? But I decided to take a screenshot of that. And I said, you know what? To me, that looks like the lawyer that's representing them. Um, and so I think there's a lot of people is involved. Adults are involved for sure. They lawyered up the next day. Adults are involved. Adults are involved, and um, that's why I want justice for Nolan Wells because I would love to see a domino effect. As much as I love dominoes, and I'm not talking about pizza. As much as I love dominoes, I would love to see the domino effect. I want to see. I don't want to just see the people that were involved behind bars. No. I want to see everybody behind bars. I want to see everybody responsible behind bars. Whether it was the sheriff, whether it was a police, you know, department or employee, whatever. Whether it was a doctor involved, whoever, like I don't care. They removed the lungs and the throat. That could have been that could also be tampered evidence. That person, what if that person was paid to do that? How sickening. This is what I'm talking about. Like the more information comes out, the more sickening this all could have been planned. And that's why I want justice for Nolan Wells. He didn't deserve to die. He didn't look like, if you look at his social media, all the pictures that they've shared, everything, there's no guns. There's no, he's just pure joy, happy to be there, living his life. You understand? It didn't look like he envied anybody. It didn't look like he was mad at the world or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, I think a lot of people were involved. I think a lot of adults were definitely involved in all of this. Um, but everybody talking or stating, basically, anybody stating that they don't know about Nolan Wells who were on those boats during the sea tow call should definitely be charged with conspiracy of a murder because they're completely lying. They didn't get the Coast Guard. They didn't even try to get Nolan medical attention or help, which they could have done, and they could have lied later. Like they could have tried to get him medical attention. That's why all of this is so suspicious, right? All of this is very suspicious because they show no remorse, no empathy, and you're saying that that was your friend, or that is your best friend, and when it comes down to that Cito call audio, and you hear people panicking, saying Nolan's name, you realize that they're not even jumping into action or trying to help and try to get on medical attention, because they could have even lied after, but they decided not even to do that. See, they could have tried regardless. They could have lied about unaliving him and saying, hey, this was an incident or accident. And then they could have took him to a hospital, tried to get him medical attention, and they could have lied and made up a story. But they didn't do that. You see that? That they still didn't do. Instead, it looks planned, doesn't it? All the stops that the boats made with with the GPS and everything. But yeah, man, that's been my time for now. I just wanted to talk about the tampered evidence. That was pretty much the subject. And Nolan Wells being on the boat. And there's parts that we see, or a few pictures, anyways, that have sort of shown a leg out the boat, maybe a hand or something rising up in the video, just for a quick second. Go back to that video, definitely watch it. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Y'all go ahead and hit that like and share button if you like the content. If you don't, that's okay. This is not for my benefit. I don't really care about the monetization or anything of that nature. I just want this crime case to get resolved, because the more information that comes out, the more it looks like it was planned. And I want everybody that was involved to be held accountable. And we need justice for Nolan Wells, his mother, his family, and his friends, his real friends. Peace out to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, uh, I would share the StreamYard link and everything and try to have people come up, but we don't have that many viewers. I should have did that the very first day, but until next time. I know a lot of people are covering it, so most likely I'll find me another channel that's covering the topic, and I jump right over there, or I'm gonna try to look for more information on the internet. So thank you guys so much. Don't forget to support every content creator out there that's covering this case. Go ahead and go to their channel, subscribe, hit that like button, keep pushing the algorithm for Nolan Wells, because we need justice for him and his family. Thank you so much.